The emergency alarm pierced through the quiet hum of the diplomatic vessel Harmony like a knife through silk. Dr. Maya Chen jerked awake in her medical bay quarters, her heart racing as the red warning lights bathed everything in an ominous glow. "All medical personnel to stations immediately," came the urgent voice of Captain Torres over the intercom. "We have received a priority distress signal from the Zephyrian Royal Fleet." Maya rolled out of bed and pulled on her medical uniform with practiced speed. 3 years of serving aboard the Harmony had taught her that emergency calls involving the alien Royal Fleet meant serious trouble. The peace negotiations between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire had been delicate enough without medical emergencies throwing everything into chaos. She rushed down the corridor toward the medical bay, her boots echoing against the metal flooring. Other crew members hurried past her, their faces tense with worry. The Zephyrian Peace Treaty was the most important diplomatic mission humanity had ever undertaken. If something went wrong now, it could mean war between two powerful civilizations. "Maya, thank goodness you're here," called out Nurse Rodriguez as she entered the medical bay. "We're preparing for emergency transport from the Zephyrian royal ship. Initial reports say their queen has been seriously wounded." Maya's stomach dropped. Queen Vexthera was the driving force behind the peace negotiations. Without her leadership, the more aggressive factions in both governments would likely push for military action instead of diplomacy. "What's the nature of her injuries?" Maya asked, quickly checking the medical equipment and supplies. "Unknown. They're being very secretive about the details. All we know is that she's lost a lot of blood and their medical team can't handle the treatment," Rodriguez replied, her hands moving efficiently over the surgical instruments. The ship shuddered slightly as it changed course toward the Zephyrian fleet. Through the medical bay's viewport, Maya could see the massive alien vessels in the distance. Their organic-looking hulls gleamed with a pearl-like shine, and bioluminescent patterns pulsed along their surfaces like living veins. "Incoming transmission from the Zephyrian flagship," announced the communications officer over the intercom. Maya moved to the communication panel and activated the screen. The image that appeared showed a tall Zephyrian male with deep blue crystal-like scales covering his humanoid form. His large, multifaceted eyes reflected worry and desperation. "I am Prime Minister Kethvar of the Zephyrian Royal Council," he said, his voice carrying the musical quality common to his species. "Our beloved queen has been gravely wounded in a cowardly attack. We request immediate medical assistance from your human physicians." Captain Torres appeared on Maya's screen from the bridge. "Mr. Prime Minister, Dr. Chen is our finest surgeon and will provide the best possible care for Queen Vexthera." Kethvar's expression shifted to one of uncertainty. "With respect, Captain, our queen's injuries are of a most sensitive nature. There are cultural considerations that may complicate treatment by a human physician." "What kind of cultural considerations?" Maya asked, stepping closer to the screen. The Prime Minister hesitated, his scales shifting to a darker shade of blue. "The wounds are located near sacred areas of our queen's body. In our culture, only specific individuals are permitted to touch these regions. However, our medical staff lacks the surgical skill needed to save her life." Maya frowned. She had studied Zephyrian anatomy during her preparation for this mission, but the cultural briefings had focused more on diplomatic protocols than medical taboos. "Sir, if the Queen's life is in danger, I need to understand exactly what restrictions I'm working under," she said firmly. "We will discuss this when you arrive." "Please, time is of the essence," Kethvar replied before ending the transmission. 20 minutes later, Maya found herself aboard a transport shuttle heading toward the Zephyrian flagship. She carried a portable medical kit containing everything she might need for emergency surgery. Her assistant, Nurse Park, sat beside her reviewing Zephyrian anatomical charts on a tablet. "Their cardiovascular system is more complex than ours," Park noted. "They have 3 hearts that pump different types of fluid through their bodies. One handles blood circulation, another manages their bioluminescent compounds, and the third controls their neural network fluids. Maya nodded, studying the diagrams. The Zephyrians were beautiful in an alien way, with their crystal-like scales that could change color based on emotions and environmental factors. Their faces were more angular than human faces, with larger eyes that could see across multiple light spectrums. The shuttle docked with the Zephyrian ship, and Maya immediately noticed the difference in atmosphere. The air felt thicker and carried a faint smell like ocean breeze mixed with ozone. The walls of the ship seemed to pulse gently with soft light, as if the vessel itself were alive. Prime Minister Kethvar met them at the airlock, along with two other Zephyrian officials whose scales showed the golden patterns that indicated high rank. Dr. Chen, thank you for coming so quickly, Kethvar said, his voice tight with stress. I must warn you before we proceed. Our queen's wounds are located near her throat ridges. In our culture, this area is considered sacred beyond measure. What exactly does that mean for my treatment? Maya asked as they walked through corridors that curved and flowed like the inside of a seashell. The throat ridges are where our people form their deepest bonds, explained one of the other officials, a female whose scales showed deep purple hues. They contain sensitive neural pathways that connect directly to our emotional and spiritual centers. Only a life-bonded consort may touch these areas. Maya felt a chill of understanding. And what happens if someone else touches them? The neural pathways automatically form a permanent connection between the individuals, Kethvar replied quietly. It is irreversible. The two beings become bonded for life, sharing thoughts, emotions, and spiritual essence. So if I treat the queen's wounds, I would become her consort? Maya asked, stopping in the hallway. By our laws and biology, yes, the Prime Minister confirmed. This is why we hesitated to ask for human assistance. We cannot ask you to sacrifice your freedom to save our queen, yet she will die without immediate surgical intervention. They reached the royal medical chamber, where Queen Vexthara lay on a curved platform that seemed to mold itself to her body. Maya's breath caught when she saw the Zephyrian ruler. Even injured, the queen was magnificent. Her scales showed a deep emerald color shot through with silver patterns, and her large eyes held an intelligence that spoke of centuries of wisdom. The wounds were immediately visible. 3 deep cuts ran across the left side of her throat, near the ridged areas that glowed with a soft blue light. Blood seeped steadily from the lacerations, and Maya could see that one had come dangerously close to a major blood vessel. How did this happen? Maya asked, moving closer to examine the injuries while careful not to touch the sensitive areas. Assassins, Queen Vexthara whispered, her voice weak but still carrying the musical quality of her people. Members of the war faction who opposed the peace treaty. They attacked during my meditation period when I was unguarded. Maya studied the wounds more carefully. The cuts were precise, made with something extremely sharp. They had been designed to hit the throat ridges specifically, which suggested the attackers knew exactly what damage this would cause. Your Majesty, I need to clean and suture these wounds immediately, or you'll lose too much blood, Maya said gently. But I understand the cultural implications. If there's any other way dash. There is no other way, the queen interrupted, her eyes meeting Maya's. My own physicians lack the steady hands needed for such delicate work near the neural pathways. One wrong cut could damage my mind permanently. Maya looked around the room at the gathered Zephyrian officials. Their scales had all shifted to darker, more somber colors, and she could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone present. If I performed this surgery, what would it mean exactly? Would I have to stay here? Would it affect the peace negotiations? Maya asked. Queen Vexthara tried to sit up but winced in pain. The bond would make you my consort in the eyes of our people, but it would not trap you here against your will. As for the negotiations, that would depend on how both our governments choose to interpret the situation. Maya thought about everything she had worked for. She had spent years training to be part of this historic mission. Her career, her life back on Earth, her family, all of it would change if she went through with this. But as she looked at the Queen's weakening condition, she realized that none of those considerations mattered as much as the life in front of her. "The peace treaty is more important than my personal concerns," Maya said finally. "If Queen Vexthera dies, how many lives will be lost in the war that follows?" She opened her medical kit and began preparing the surgical instruments. "Your Majesty, I need you to understand that I've never performed surgery on a Zephyrian before. I'll do my best to be gentle, but I can't guarantee what the bonding process will feel like." The Queen's scales shifted to a warmer, golden color. "Your willingness to sacrifice for peace tells me everything I need to know about your character, Dr. Chen. I am honored that you would choose to save my life." Maya took a deep breath and looked at the assembled officials. "I need everyone except essential medical personnel to leave the room. This requires complete concentration." As the room cleared, Maya felt her hands steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to do. She had become a doctor to save lives, and that core purpose hadn't changed just because the patient happened to be an alien queen. "Are you ready, Your Majesty?" she asked, pulling on surgical gloves. "I have been ready for this moment longer than you might imagine," Queen Vexthera replied, a strange note in her voice that Maya didn't quite understand. Maya positioned herself beside the platform and raised her hand toward the glowing throat ridges. The Queen's breathing became shallow, and her scales began to shimmer with anticipation. "Once I touch the neural pathways, there's no going back," Maya warned. "I understand," the Queen whispered. "And Maya, when the bond forms, do not be afraid of what you see in my mind. Some truths are too dangerous to speak aloud, even here." Maya frowned at the cryptic comment, but the Queen's condition was deteriorating rapidly. She couldn't wait any longer to begin the procedure. With steady hands and a heart full of determination, Maya reached out and gently placed her fingers on the sacred throat ridges of Queen Vexthera. The moment her skin made contact with the alien neural pathways, the world exploded into light and sensation. Images, emotions, and thoughts that weren't her own flooded into Maya's mind. She saw flashes of the Queen's memories, felt the weight of ruling an entire civilization, experienced the loneliness of power and the desperate hope for peace between their species. But beneath it all, Maya sensed something that made her gasp even as she began working on the wounds. The Queen had been expecting this exact scenario. The attack, the injuries, the need for human medical intervention, none of it was the accident it appeared to be. As the neural bond deepened with each passing second, Maya realized that she had just become part of something far more complex than a simple medical emergency. Queen Vexthera had orchestrated this entire situation, but the question was why. The answers would have to wait until the surgery was complete and the Queen's life was no longer in immediate danger. But as Maya worked to save the alien ruler, she couldn't shake the feeling that her destiny had just taken a turn that would change not only her own life, but the fate of both their civilizations. The neural connection hit Maya like a lightning storm inside her mind. As her fingers worked carefully around Queen Vexthera's wounded throat ridges, waves of alien memories and emotions crashed through her consciousness. She saw glimpses of vast crystalline cities beneath purple skies, felt the weight of making decisions that affected billions of lives, and experienced the profound isolation that came with absolute power. But even through the overwhelming flood of shared thoughts, Maya kept her hands steady. Her medical training took over, guiding her movements as she cleaned the deep wounds and began the delicate process of suturing tissue that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. "Dr. Chen," whispered Nurse Park from beside the medical platform. "Your vital signs are spiking. Should I intervene?" Maya shook her head without looking away from her work. "The bond is forming. I can handle it." Just monitor the Queen's condition and hand me the neural tissue regenerator when I ask for it. As Maya worked deeper into the wounds, the mental connection with Vexthera strengthened. Suddenly, a clear thought that wasn't her own echoed in her mind. You understand now, don't you? This was never an accident. Maya's hands paused for just a moment before continuing their careful work. Through the bond, she could sense the Queen's consciousness more clearly now. The alien ruler was awake and aware despite her weakened physical state. Why? Maya thought back, not sure if the communication would work both ways. Images flashed through their shared mental link. Maya saw meetings in shadowy chambers where Zephyrian officials argued violently about the peace treaty. She witnessed secret communications between members of the Queen's own council and military leaders from both species who wanted war instead of peace. Most shocking of all, she saw the planning sessions for the assassination attempt. My own council betrayed me, came Vexthera's mental voice. But I discovered their plot 3 days ago. The attack was real, but I chose to let it happen in a controlled way. Maya felt a surge of disbelief mixed with admiration. You risked your life just to create this situation. I risked my life to save both our civilizations. War is coming unless we can create a bond stronger than any treaty. Traditional diplomacy has failed. As Maya continued the surgery, more of the Queen's plan became clear through their mental connection. Vexthera had studied human psychology extensively and knew that humans possessed something most other species lacked, the willingness to sacrifice themselves for strangers. She had gambled that a human doctor would choose to save her life even knowing the consequences. But why me specifically? Maya asked as she carefully repaired a damaged nerve pathway. Because your medical records show a history of treating patients others had given up on. Because you volunteered for this dangerous mission when you could have stayed safely on Earth. Because humans like you represent what makes your species special. The surgery continued for another hour, with Maya working through the most delicate repair work she had ever attempted. The Zephyrian neural pathways were incredibly complex, carrying not just nerve impulses but also the bioluminescent compounds that allowed their scales to change color and the quantum particles that enabled their telepathic abilities. As she worked, the bond between them deepened. Maya began to understand Zephyrian culture in ways no human ever had before. She felt their deep connection to family groups, their respect for wisdom earned through long life, and their genuine desire for harmony between different species. At the same time, Vexthera experienced human determination, compassion, and the unique human ability to make moral choices even when they came at great personal cost. Your people are remarkable, Vexthera's thoughts whispered through their connection. We have encountered dozens of species across the galaxy, but none with your combination of empathy and courage. And your people aren't the cold, calculating empire some humans believe you to be, Maya responded as she completed the final sutures. You're more like us than either side realized. When Maya finally stepped back from the surgical platform, Queen Vexthera's wounds were completely sealed. The bioluminescent ridges on her throat glowed with a healthy blue light, and the color had returned to her scales. More importantly, the neural bond between them had stabilized into something Maya could sense but that no longer overwhelmed her thoughts. The surgery was successful, Maya announced to the waiting medical staff. Queen Vexthera should make a full recovery. The Queen sat up slowly, testing the movement of her neck and throat. Her large, multifaceted eyes fixed on Maya with an expression of deep gratitude mixed with something that looked almost like relief. Thank you, Dr. Chen, she said aloud, though Maya could feel her additional thoughts through their bond. You have given me more than just my life back. Prime Minister Kethvar rushed into the medical chamber, his scales shifting to bright gold when he saw that his queen was alive and alert. Your Majesty. The entire fleet has been waiting for news. We feared the worst when the surgery took so long. I am well, old friend, Vexthera replied, standing gracefully from the medical platform. And Dr. Chen has proven herself worthy of our highest respect. The bond has been formed, and I have never felt its equal. Maya felt a moment of uncertainty as the reality of her situation settled in. She was now permanently connected to an alien queen, bound by laws and biology she didn't fully understand. Her life on Earth, her career plans, everything had changed in the span of a few hours. But as she looked around the medical chamber, she realized something surprising. She didn't feel trapped or regretful. Instead, she felt more purposeful than she had in years. Through the bond, she could sense the vast possibilities that lay ahead. "Your Majesty," Maya said formally. "What happens now? I understand that I'm your consort by Zephyrian law, but I'm not sure what that means practically." Queen Vexthera moved closer, and Maya could feel warmth radiating from her crystalline scales. "It means that you and I are now connected in ways that transcend the normal boundaries between our species. You will understand our people as no human has before, and I will see humanity through your eyes. Together, we can bridge gaps that traditional diplomacy cannot." "But the peace treaty Maya began. "Will be stronger than ever," Vexthera interrupted gently. "When our governments learn that a human and a Zephyrian can share minds and hearts without losing their individual identities, it will prove that true cooperation between our species is possible." Over the following hours, as news of the successful surgery and the unprecedented bond spread through both fleets, Maya began to understand the full scope of what had happened. Representatives from both governments requested immediate meetings to discuss the implications of the situation. Captain Torres arrived aboard the Zephyrian flagship looking worried and confused. "Maya, are you all right? The reports were getting sound impossible." "I'm fine, Captain." "Better than fine, actually," Maya replied, and she meant it. Through her connection with Vexthera, she could sense the collective relief and hope spreading through the Zephyrian fleet. At the same time, her human perspective remained unchanged, allowing her to serve as a true bridge between the two civilizations. The first major test came during an emergency diplomatic session held aboard the neutral space station where the peace talks had been taking place. Representatives from both Earth and the Zephyrian Empire gathered to hear Maya and Vexthera explain their unique situation. "This bonding process," said Admiral Harrison from Earth's delegation, "how do we know it hasn't compromised Dr. Chen's loyalty to humanity?" Maya stood before the assembled diplomats, feeling more confident than she had any right to be. The Queen's memories and understanding flowed through their bond, giving her insights into Zephyrian motivations and fears that no human negotiator had ever possessed. "Admiral, my loyalty to humanity is stronger than ever," Maya replied. "But now I also understand the Zephyrian people in ways that allow me to see how much we have in common. We both value family, we both want safety for our children, and we both fear the unknown. The only difference is that we've been afraid of each other instead of working together." Queen Vexthera spoke next, her musical voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "The bond with Dr. Chen has shown me the true nature of human courage and compassion. Your people do not seek conquest or domination. You seek understanding and mutual benefit. This is exactly what we had hoped to find in a galactic partner." "But what about the political implications?" asked Minister Park from the Earth delegation. "How can we proceed with negotiations when our chief medical officer is now bonded to your queen?" Maya exchanged a glance with Vexthera, and through their mental connection, they reached the same conclusion simultaneously. "We propose a new model for cooperation," Maya said. "Instead of separate governments negotiating from a distance, we suggest establishing joint colonies where humans and Zephyrians live and work together. Our bond proves that such close cooperation is not only possible but beneficial for both species." The idea was radical, but as Maya and Vexthera presented their vision, the assembled diplomats began to see the possibilities. Through their unique connection, they could demonstrate how human innovation could combine with Zephyrian wisdom to solve problems that neither species could handle alone. Within weeks, the first joint colony was approved and planning began immediately. Maya found herself appointed as the chief medical officer for the colony, while Queen Vexthera took a leave from her royal duties to serve as the cultural liaison. Their bond became the foundation for the first truly integrated human-alien society. The colony, built on a beautiful world with both Earth-like and Zephyrian-like environments, became a symbol of hope for peaceful cooperation throughout the galaxy. Human families lived alongside Zephyrian family groups, sharing knowledge, technology, and friendship. Children from both species grew up together, learning each other's languages and customs as naturally as breathing. Maya often stood on the observation deck of the colony's central hub, watching human and Zephyrian children playing together in the gardens below. Through her bond with Vexthera, she could feel the Queen's satisfaction and pride in what they had accomplished together. "We did it," came Vexthera's gentle mental voice as the Queen joined her on the observation deck. "We found a way to turn fear into friendship." Maya smiled, placing her hand on the warm crystalline surface of Vexthera's arm. The gesture no longer felt strange or alien. It felt like coming home. "No," Maya replied through their connection. "We proved that sometimes the greatest diplomatic breakthroughs come not from careful negotiations, but from one person's willingness to choose love over fear." As the twin suns set over their colony, painting the sky in colors that pleased both human and Zephyrian eyes, Maya reflected on how much her life had changed. She had come to the stars as a doctor hoping to serve her species in a time of potential war. Instead, she had become something entirely new, a bridge between worlds, living proof that different species could not only coexist but thrive together. The bond with Queen Vexthera had given her more than just a connection to an alien ruler. It had given her a purpose that transcended the boundaries of species and showed both civilizations a path toward a future built on understanding rather than fear. And as more colonies followed their example, Maya knew that the choice she had made in that medical chamber aboard the Zephyrian flagship had changed the course of galactic history. Sometimes, the greatest courage was shown not in battle, but in the simple act of reaching out to help someone in need, regardless of the cost to oneself.